Okay, akimashite omedetou gozaimasu. All right. Conventionally, Happy New Year. We're going to go into that and break that down a whole lot more during this episode. But this is the first official or literal episode of KUDEN for the new year, 2025, the year of the wood snake. Going to go into a whole bunch of this stuff. So this is something that I typically do. Why is that popped on? Something is on my phone. All right, we'll get rid of that. Hold on one second. That was just really weird. Guess YouTube decided I should go live on my phone, whether I wanted to or not. All right. Well, Happy New Year. Anyway, every year what I do is I kind of introduce kind of the Japanese, Asian-esque kind of way of looking at these things, knowing that formally or traditionally or classically or technically, the year of the wood snake does not officially begin until January 28th of 2025. Right. So a couple of weeks from now. And then during that week, we will also be doing what I call, just for my local students, a Chinese New Year's party. Because in all honesty, most people know the difference. But the reason I typically lean into it by calling it a Chinese New Year's party and not getting all like butthurt on my end. And I know we're doing the Japanese, actually, we're doing the American iteration of the Japanese iteration of the Chinese iteration of this thing we call Nimpo. But the reason I do that is because the Chinese still officially celebrate based on the lunar calendar. The Japanese, decades ago, switched to the Gregorian calendar, Western calendar, whatever you want to call it. But there are still like lots of references to these things in Japan, and the farther away you get from the metropolitan centers into the mountains and smaller villages and whatnot, they still celebrate that way as well. So they navigate the world based on the Gregorian calendar, but still cling to the roots, right? Based on this lunar kind of thing. So we'll talk about that more as we get started here. But for now, that's just kind of a heads up. And I will talk to everybody here shortly as soon as we get through the intro. So the big question is this: how are self-defense and success-minded people like us, concerned citizens worried about protecting ourselves, our loved ones, and the things we care about from the monsters we know exist in the world? How do we train in a way that gives us the skills, knowledge, and understanding we need without becoming paranoid fighters or killers ourselves, and yet still allows us to be the hero protector the world needs us to be? That's the question, and this podcast will give you the answers. My name is Jeffrey Miller, and welcome to KUDEN Radio. All right, and that is still my story, and we're still going to stick to it. Anyway, so are we set up? We are. James must be pushing buttons in the background there. So anyway, again, welcome to 2025. This is our first official episode of KUDEN Radio for the new year. We took a couple of, a week and a half-ish, 2 weeks downtime at the academy, even though I kept KUDEN running and whatnot. So for those of you who've been up with things and you already know what's going on, for those of you who might be signing in for the first time or checking this out on a recording later on or something like that, this is the third and final part of a 3-part mini-series that I started 3 weeks ago. Right. So what I did was I set it up so it would be a bridge linking 2024 to 2025, right? So part one, we looked at certain aspects, reflection, things that maybe we need to drop or jettison or get rid of as we're getting ready for this new year. And please note, I will not now or ever, unless I speak of it in a negative light, be discussing New Year's resolutions. Okay. And to show you just how much I make fun of them, sorry, had something pop up on my screen here. When I sent out the meme, and I don't know how many people caught it. Some people laughed, other people just hit their blue check mark because I think they see the picture, but they don't bother with the text or whatever. I sent out a Happy New Year meme on the social posts and whatnot, or the social platforms, and on online Ninjutsu training and Kuden podcast and things like that. I have these ones that are, I think they're fairly professional and whatnot, that just wishes everyone, Happy New Year. I either do it in Japanese or English or whatever. But on my personal account, personal page this time, got this. Well, I kind of adjusted a picture that I found, really nice deep blue, one of the colors that really jazzed for me, with gold, and it just said Happy New Year 2025. But the text, not on the meme, the text on the post said, or was spelled out, right? Happy New Year. May all your problems last as long as your New Year's resolutions. And again, some people got it. I think a lot of people missed it, but that can be taken two ways. One, I hope you rock your New Year's resolutions and there's something that you just dive into and get through very, very quickly. But we all know that for a lot of people, the New Year's resolutions, some people just stop making them, right? Because, well, if we're honest with ourselves, we aren't going to do it anyway, or we're not going to stick to it because it's too easy to fall back off the wagon and fall back into our normal habits, which is why during Daikomyosai, that's coming up this weekend, right after lunch on Sunday, we do a version of the Goma. It's an active meditation. Some people call it a fire ceremony or whatever, but it does involve fire. It does involve burning things. There's a whole lot of symbolism to it. It comes from our Mikyo. As a matter of fact, the Goma makes up the fourth level of training and development, and it's for burning away those last vestiges of things that are in the way. Now, it sounds like it's easy, right? I just learned this and it's all good. Yeah, well, maybe. There's actually 7 levels to the Goma. But what we have is something that I got from my teacher, is using it for goal setting and attainment. And so the whole gist of it is going through the process of acting out those things that need to be done, right? Visualizing and acting out those things that need to be done to actually accomplish the goals, right? So jokingly, I often call it New Year's resolutions on steroids, but New Year's resolutions stop at mind and or like thought and or speech. Okay. And actually, for those of you who've been around for a while and you know the Sanmitsu, then you know it's pretty much just speech. Okay? Thought, word, and deed. Right. Because it doesn't matter if you're thinking words in your head or you're speaking them out loud. Word is word. Okay. Really bad translations sometimes when this stuff comes across to the West. Okay. So thought is not what most people think of when they think of thought. They think of like thinking and visualizing and stuff like that. And it's not that visualizing isn't a part of it, but thought is really more about intent, intention, drive, commitment, those kind of things, right? So more of a subconscious, unconscious kind of thing. And it's easy to see what somebody's drive or commitment is, whether they're working, they're in a relationship, they're trying to attain goals, in training, whatever, right? So anyway, so we'll be going through that, but I have a real distaste for just this idea of New Year's resolutions, because resolution comes from the word resolve, right? And resolve is a deep-seated, rooted commitment that this will be done. And I think things have just gotten lost in translation again and again and again and again, to where it just becomes this thing. And a lot of traditions are falling away. But either way, right? So we're resurrecting them, right? Or we're at least bringing them. Hopefully, I'm bringing them with a different flavor, right? If we approach them from the warrior perspective, from the Japanese perspective, from the perspective of a different culture, I think it did for me, and it has done for a lot of my students in the past, where it wakes up this part of the brain where the mind where it makes us pay attention. Okay, and so again, 2 episodes ago, the focus was really on not what we need to do, but what we need to get rid of that's in the way. It's kind of like cleaning house, okay? Which in the Chinese New Year tradition, again, a lot of the stuff was incorporated into Japan, because remember, China was the seat of wisdom and knowledge and whatnot that the Japanese sought way back in the day. That's why a lot of these folks traveled back and forth, right? The founders of both the Shingon and Tendai Mikyo traditions, and their students, right, would go and live in China for a while. Takamasu Sensei, Hatsumi Sensei's teacher, did the same thing, because it was the land of opportunity, the land of promise, and those kind of things, right? So, so that was about jettisoning things, right? I think the theme for that, or the title for that episode, was "Ninja are defined by their actions." Right? And then last week, James, what did we work on last week? What we discussed last week? It was the Kaizen, the process for change, right? Small changes. Instead of focusing on building the Taj Mahal, right? How about if we focus on making the bricks, or making the parts that we can then just assemble, right? And the whole idea that small successes breed the confidence and power and eliminate the self-doubt and things like that allow for bigger and bigger successes to occur. I don't know what anybody else is listening, but I wasn't raised in that kind of atmosphere or environment. I was just telling a student today that had it not been for my grandparents, my maternal grandparents, you might be listening to somebody else's podcast or whatever, right? Because that wasn't my primary role models. Okay? My maternal grandparents were the goal-oriented, kick you in the butt, tip of the boot love kind of person. Not that they weren't nurturing as well. They were. But it wasn't like this is our lot in life and therefore that's what we're stuck with kind of thing, right? But there was still a lot of uphill climbing out of that kind of thing. So I know a lot of people, they like to get into little debates with me, or, tell me that the stuff that I'm teaching doesn't work for everybody. And they're absolutely right. Okay. It certainly doesn't work for anybody who doubts it and isn't even going to try. Okay, so that's a guarantee, right? But I'm going to sound evangelistical here. I've lived this stuff, right? I mean, it's literally saved my life. So, and I don't just mean physically out in the world, that kind of way. I mean the life mastery teachings, right? So, but anyway, we discussed this process, right? We compared it to the Sanmitsu, but it's this process for growth and whatnot, right? And along the way, we've hinted at this upcoming year, right? And its meaning and symbolism within the Chinese zodiac, right? This year of the wood snake, right? And so I've touched on wood symbolism, snake symbolism, that kind of thing. We're really going to dive into it here in this one. And so I'm going to come at it a couple of different ways. One, I've got a couple of little notes out here on this little outline that I have in front of me, but I am going to have to bring up another part of my my notes where we're going to look at this, how we can look at this in different areas of our life and different experiences and situations and whatnot. I also want to take a look at, which I'll probably do first. I want to take a look at this phrase that's typically used in Japan. Now, there are several phrases. There are many phrases that are used for the quote unquote Happy New Year ish kind of meaning. Although none of these things, there might be one, um, actually literally mean Happy New Year, have anything with New Year or um, happy or anything like that in it, right? I tend to gravitate to one because it makes it easier for students. You can certainly go on to, who knows, any Japanese thing um, out there. You might even be able to ask ChatGPT, right? But there are multiple phrases the Japanese use. And just like most Japanese language and culture, it's time and distance based. So after Christmas holiday, starting to lean into uh, the prep for the new year, the rollover on the Gregorian calendar, there are certain phrases that you might say to friends, to coworkers, uh, whatever, right? As in prepping for this thing. And then this phrase that we're going to be using is actually used um, the week of, right? So from give or take January 1st through about the first week or so, people are coming back to work or they're interacting with folks and whatnot. So there's this meaning to it, and conventionally there's a certain meaning. But what I want to do is I want to kind of take a look below the surface, um, and uh, and and see where this really is. It's not just a fresh slate because this symbology is in the language, and it again bridges the previous year with the new year, and there's certain kind of elements to it. So I want to look at that. We're definitely going to dive into the this idea of this wood snake. um, I as soon as I saw it and I started breaking things down and doing a little bit more research, I mean the way that this ties in almost just it's almost like it fits like a glove with the Togakure Ninpo, right? This life philosophy and how we're to approach things in training, in life, in problems, those kind of things. Just it was like a punch to the face, right? So we'll break these things down a little bit between the wood element, which is not 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 as familiar to most people as the animal reference, right? The snake, because most people, if they're anything like me, when I first started this journey, there were 12 animals, and they were cyclic, right? And if I sat in the Chinese restaurant and I looked at the little placemat that they put down in front of me with these 12 animals that went around it, and then they had some birth dates and whatnot, so I could see which one am I, kind of thing, right? That's where I was kind of left with. That it was a 12-year cycle, right? But it's not, right? Each year is also conditioned by one of the Gogyo elements, right? The five elemental transformations, uh, energies, also known as the it's not just transformational, it can also be destructive as well. There's two different ways that these things interact. We're going to focus on obviously the growth and the transformational cyclical kind of nature to it, but each of the animals is conditioned. So the question then becomes not, which animal are you? Like, I'm a tiger. um, are you a tiger, are you a boar, are you a dragon, whatever, right? But which type? Because once the conditioning of the element comes into play, what you find is that there's 5 different types of tigers. I happen to be a water tiger. There's 5 different types of snakes or whatever. Okay, so each of these has certain qualities, and you can buy into this as much as you want. Again, it's a way that ancient people translated these things. What I like to do is I like to look at these things as a way to focus on certain characteristics, certain aspects of myself that may need work, that may need some attention, that if I could just focus on leading in with these, right, then I won't be so scattered, because I will have honed in on just a couple of things. Right? Every year I pick a one of these energies off the mandala. People typically know them as Buddha or Bodhisattva. What we're really talking about are mindsets and or related activities of those mindsets. Okay? That's the Mikyo approach to them. But they're also seen as aspects of myself, right? Whether it's compassion, or it's wisdom, or it's reflection, or it's teaching, or being a role model. There's just, those folks who went through the Jusan Butsu, the 13 Buddhas and Bodhisattvas, you have a better understanding about how these things work. But I'll pick one of these, and that's my focus moving forward. Right, this year there's going to be two, because I'm diving into this wood snake thing pretty well. Right, so there's these two characters in the 13 Buddhas, 13 Sadhana of the 13 Buddhas and Bodhisattvas, the Jusan Butsu. One is Kanon Bosatsu, or Kanjizai Bosatsu. There's an empathetic compassion kind of thing, feeling the pain of others, feeling basically getting a sense for what that person needs to move forward, to get ahead. And then there's this character that's related, Seishi. Seishi is also compassion, but Seishi leans into the wisdom side. So that's more the intellect. So you have one where you recognize where somebody needs help, and then the other side is in using and applying skillful means, right, and using logic and strategic thinking to formulate a plan of action, instead of just throwing shit around or repeating the same thing over and over again, that kind of thing. So these are both bodhisattvas. They're both activities, but they're both connected to this idea of light and life and vibrancy, and just there's a whole bunch to this. So anyway, so big deal here. But before I jump into this, so again, we're going to do this. Oh, and if you caught at least one or two of the emails I send out about this episode, then I also mentioned that if you could have like a drink on hand. I don't care what kind of drink you have. I have my trusty Diet Pepsi that I'll be sipping through the episode. But at the end, I have a little something else. I was going to do sake, but like I was gifted some really nice stuff. But like once you crack the bottle, and well, you can put it in the refrigerator. You really do need to drink it fairly quickly. And while like I like to have some scotch with maybe a cigar, whatever. This is like an every once in a while kind of thing. Like I haven't had a cigar in 3-4 weeks. I don't have that kind of draw, and it's too freaking cold outside, and I'm not doing that shit, and I don't smoke in my house. So there you go. So anyway, I think for the toast that we have at the end, right, I'm going to do my blended Scotch whiskey, because Scotch is nice every once in a while. For me, you can do you. But anyway, so I thought we'd do that at the end to wrap it up. So anybody that's still around, that'd be great. And if you have to go early, that's fine. Just know that we're going to be doing a toast, and for us all, right? So kind of that adding energy. So it's one of the other reasons why we do the Goma active meditation for goal setting during Daikomyosai, and it's for the year, right? The only stipulation for the goals that people set during Daikomyosai, the only rule that I impose is that it has to be something that they will have accomplished before December 31st of 2025, or whatever the given year is. Okay, it needs to be a hard deadline, because goals without deadlines, yeah, they'll happen tomorrow. And you know the secret about tomorrow, right? Tomorrow never comes. When tomorrow's here, it's a today. Right? Tomorrow is always, right? I'm not going to sing the Annie song, but you get it. Okay. So anyway, at the end, we'll do a little kampai kind of thing and call it a day. But with that Goma, one of the powerful things that a lot of students mention later is that we're all there together. We're all there with a common mind, a common purpose. We all have our own individual goals, but as each of us add these symbolic items to the fire, and it just gets bigger and bigger, and there's more heat, there's more energy, and that kind of thing, right? We are collectively aiding each other in accomplishing things, and this is one of the powerful things about being a part of a dojo. Okay? The cool thing about today's world is you don't have to have a local dojo, right? You can be a part of a dojo this way, right? So there needs to be that teacher-student relationship, and there also needs to be a relationship among the gakusei, right, the students. So anyway, before we jump into anything else, James, are you on? James is back to the computer. Are you good? You all set? Just
Yes, sir.
Just a new one?
Yes, we're good.
Awesome. Cool beans. So, who's on? Who's saying hi? Who already flipped me the bird? Um,
Tonight, quite a few chimed in already. We got Terrence, Dave, Jeffrey, Trinity, Greg from Australia,
awesome.
Jimmy, Victor, Into over on YouTube, Merrill, and Dave said goals without deadlines are just wishes.
Agreed. Right. A lot of people don't do things like that, or they don't like things like that because it puts too much pressure on them. That's the fucking point. Right. Human beings are very adaptive, and we adapt way more when there's pressure. Right. Niceness, when things are comfortable, there's no need for change. There's no need for things to get done. So anyway, cool beans. All right. Speaking of a couple of folks, I appreciate it. Right. Got ahead of things on Christmas presents and the Christmas presents. I did get a couple, right, from folks. Really nice book with Buddhist artwork. That was really cool. I'm not going to name names at the moment, but I really appreciate those kind of things that came in. Just got one today. It was like this huge surprise. I've come up to the dojo, and like they normally give it to the business next door that I can pick it up from. They sent it outside, and I'm like, what the hell? Did I order something? And then I picked it up, and like the box was way bigger than the item inside. And I was, knowing this person's personality and sense of humor, I would not have put it past them to have like an empty box inside of an empty box inside of an empty box all the way down till I found like, a quarter in the corner or something like that. But anyway, I got this really cool Kubotan. It actually has a hole that you could put a key chain kind of thing in it, or a lanyard or something, but it's a tactical pen. So I did reach out to him earlier today to say thank you. Really nice pen. I don't think that it's going to fly as far as like, airline security, because it does come down to a pretty good spike, but it writes well and all that kind of stuff. And, so I just kind of put the word pen in parentheses, and goofball replies with, "Oh, it's a pen too, really?" Anyway, so cool stuff. Anyway, so what else did I get? Somebody, did say a nice bottle of sake. The better the quality, the more it should be chilled. If you're used to drinking warm sake in restaurants, that's actually, I like it as well, but it tends to be lower quality stuff. They warm it to take the edge off the bitterness because it's a lower quality I know even on the things it says Ichiban. Ichiban is a Japanese. It just means number one, Ichiban. But Ichiban is best. Okay, so just because something is called Ichiban doesn't make it Ichiban, if you know what I'm saying. Okay, and they do that in the East. That's another one of those Eastern things. Here, when we do a scale of like on a scale of 1 to 10, right? How would you rate this thing? And we all kind of recognize that 1 is, it's not dead, but it's scraping the bottom, and 10 is best. Well, it's the opposite in Japan. Okay, and in Korea. I don't know for sure about China. Maybe Trinity can tell me about that because she's the Chinese major. But if you're in the East and they say that you or something is number 10, okay, that's not best. Okay, you're not on a scale of 1 to 10. You're on a scale of well, it is, but it's descending, not ascending, right? So if they say that he's number 1, or if you're in Korea, they might say number 1, right? Hana is number 1. Ichiban in Japanese, right? Best. Anyway, so we got that, and then I just got this another gift from another student who gave me a flag, a U.S. flag that has been flown over the U.S. Capitol, which will go nicely with the smaller flag that I got from my wife and mother-in-law years ago that was flown above our state capitol. And I kind of take those things seriously since I was military and did a bunch of protection stuff and whatnot. So anyway, good. So people are on. So hopefully you have like a drink. We're going to hold that off till later, just as a kind of a way to, kick things off, so to speak. Anyway, James, any questions or anything that popped up that I need to handle before I jump into this other thing?
No questions yet. No.
Okay. All right. So here's what I'm going to do. I'm actually going to bring the slide back up, the promotional slide that I sent out to everybody, because there are some symbols in this. Now, there are some other ones that I want to cover, but I'm going to hold these for the week of the Chinese New Year stuff that we're doing, right? So I'll bring some other things back in. And I think what I want to do for that episode is take a look at this idea of pictures and symbology and whatnot. We all know the phrase, right? A symbol or a picture is worth 10,000 words or whatever, but they reach through just the intellect and touch us at a much deeper level, right? So if we understand the symbology behind things, it's not so much the item as it is what it means to us, right? And so, right. So anyway, let me just bring this thing up. There are a couple that I do want to go into just to kind of get us started, and then we'll end up on the phrase, and then we'll look at the year. Okay. All right. So this is the slide or the promotional meme or whatever, right? In one format, it just happens to fit my screen here. James, did that pop up for everybody? Wait, I didn't share the screen, did I? Or can you guys see it?
Yes, that's up.
Is it up? Okay, cool. All right. So we'll get back to the phrase here in a bit, but I just borrowed this little hanko, right? This you probably can't see my cursor, but this slanted oval, right? You can see the snake making up the outer rim, and then the kanji in here, which is just pointing to this idea, right? So what you need to understand is that when you see now this is kind of a mix of things, but I'm going to borrow the lower one here, the one that's just above the 2025. Okay, it looks more rounded. That kanji looks a little bit more rounded. Hanko, if you know the Chinese, the word is chop, CHOP. it's a signature block, right? It's this soapstone or something like that that is sculpted, right? And in Japan, I can't speak for China, but in Japan, they're registered with the government, right? So every person has one after they come of age and whatnot, and it's how you sign all documents, right? So it's almost like everybody has the ruler's seal, right? So again, they're all registered. They're all uh, they're all one of a kind of thing, right? Now I don't know that they don't recycle them as people pass and new people come of age and whatnot. But the way that they would be done is not in modern kanji. So if you go to Japan and you buy these little stampers and whatnot, and the kanji look just like what you'd expect to see, like the nin symbol on our crest in the upper left-hand corner there, or the kanji next to the ninja drawing the sword there in the upper right-hand corner for kuden. That's what those two kanji are, kuden. The first kanji at the top is mouth, right? And then the bottom one there is transmission, right? So, but if it looks like what you're used to seeing, then it's a novelty kind of thing, or it's not what I'm talking about. It's not a formal seal for your signature, right? The traditional or the hanko in Japan use the original primitive script. And I don't have these things with me. They're all at the dojo. But they look very, very rounded. They're, unless you know what you're looking at, they don't look, most of them don't look anything like what we're used to seeing. Okay. So, but again, I just had the little reference to the snake on here. And then there's this kind of an officiality of something, right? So when you see something that has this stamp on it, if you have any artwork from Hatsumi Sensei, if you've been to Japan, or you've seen any Japanese art or whatever, either along the side. Actually, I do have some things here. Da-da-da. Not that. Okay. So let me bring up get rid of that here for a second. Boom. Okay. If you go on a trip to Japan with me, you'll definitely be doing this. And if you go with somebody else, well, then maybe you won't. Right? So one of the things that I have students do, and it's everything is optional, right? It's all optional. But what I tend to have them do, this one came from. This is actually from Hiezan. This is from Enryakuji Temple on top of. Hiezan. This is where the headquarters of the Tendai sect of Japanese Buddhism, aka the Mikyo that I train in. And so, but there are these pilgrimage books. And this one just happens to match. Same temple. I have another one. This one's much, much older. This one. Nope, that's interesting. I don't know. It's from another Tendai temple, but I don't know. I don't remember which one. Anyway, so as we go to different temples and places that are related to what we're doing, right? I'm not one to just go to Hombu or wherever and just do physical training. It's not that that's not important, but there's other parts about this system and this art and this tradition that's equally important that you will not get chances, or you're not going to get very deeply in the dojo. And even according to Japanese master teachers, it is important to take a day or two off from training so as to not put yourself into a state where nothing's getting in. Okay. So it is a full training trip, but not everything is about Taiden. It's not all about the physical stuff. And that's where this kind of stuff comes in. So while people will buy souvenirs, right? We've all been on vacations. We've all gone places. We've all bought things, souvenirs or whatever. They tend to what? tend to get put on a shelf. They tend to get put in a box. We tend to forget them. They get broken. They get given away, whatever, right? This is a way to collect not just the memory of being in a certain place, but this is also a you know, those little the little the little tea bags and price tags, right, that I have hanging off my belt. They act as that as well, right? So it's supposed to carry over merit, power, energy, that kind of thing. And again, see it as symbolic, see it as real, see it as, you know, whatever you want, or just see it as a way to kind of collect things and keep it all in one place. So let's see. These are not, it's not leaves in a book, right? It's not individual pages. Right? It is one leaf, okay, that kind of opens up as a scroll. Oh, that's right. That's just there for a buffer to keep ink from going into certain places. So as I go to different temples, right, there's the kanji for the primary Buddha, Bodhisattva, energy, whatever that's being revered there. There's a bunch of stuff on here. The date that I visited, the monk that actually did the artwork and whatnot. But you can see these hanko. Okay. And there's different hanko for different things, right? So this one has the Sanskrit seed syllables for this particular energy and whatnot. But and then yeah, so just for different different areas. That's what these things are for. So if we look at both of these, I'm going to try to get this close, but keep the wording on. If you can see this one here, right? So you can see the black ink. That's the pen and brush that he used, or the pen and ink, right? That's kanji. That's everyday kanji, right? All of this stuff that's written on here, everyday kanji, okay? But the red, okay, if you can see those symbols that are in there, that's primitive kanji, okay? Same thing with this one at the lower right, right? Very rounded, very, what'd you call it? Very, yeah, very rounded, very almost artsy kind of thing, right? So that's what we're looking at, okay? So again, what's the meaning behind it is this it's a signature. It's a it's an affirmation. It's a proclamation, right? It's a declaration. Boy, all those Asians, huh? Anyway, so the reason I had it on there was, you know, here we are, right? I know this is episode 3 of 3, but it's like, here we are, right? What are you going to do with it? Right, here's this opportunity. We'll talk about that more in just a second. Here, I'll just set this off to the side and I'll fix it later. I've got all kinds of extra stuff in there. Okay, so let me get back to my little friend. Anyway, so all right, some things that most people are probably familiar with, right? The lucky bamboo plant that I had down here in the lower right corner. Bamboo in Asian art, Chinese, Japanese art, represents strength, resilience, right? And this is fairly small. Bamboo grows really, really tall. I mean, like stories tall, right? So new growth, that kind of thing, but also points to nature, the cyclic nature of nature, that kind of thing, right? Then I've got, these are just these little things just below it, right? They're supposed to be snakes. They're these little porcelain snake figurines, or figures that can be placed on, you know, your mantle or whatever, okay? The big bell behind me, right? This is actually a temple bell that's behind me. And then there's this, you can see the horizontal, it looks like it's wrapped in white cloth. I know I have a little bit faded, but that's actually the ringer. That's the gong, right? There's a rope attached to that. And then, you know, you pull back on it and then help it slam into that bell. That's the traditional way of literally ringing in the new year in Japan. See, things are backwards from what we're used to, right? In a traditional sense, I don't mean in a commercial sense. In a traditional sense, Christmas, right, based on Christianity, is the religious holiday for a lot of people, and then New Year's is the fun party time. Okay, well, in Japan, they imported Christmas, so it's the party time. New Year's is, even for people that don't go to the temple on a regular basis, which is a huge part of Japanese society, they will go at least once a year, and it's at New Year's. Okay. And so whether or not they actually get involved with ringing the bell, I've experienced that before, and it's just an awesome thing. But this is that ringing in kind of thing, right? So, but the other big thing that's here, so there's a lot of different pieces, right, that are brought in from different traditions. Okay, so the bell and the big, it's literally a battering ram kind of thing, right? You see that in Buddhist temples. Not that it won't be in Shinto temples, but the bells are different, right? The Western ear might associate the sound almost with, I don't know, a broken toy or something like that. Okay. But there's a whole lot of extra meaning behind that as well, right? But that's kind of a Buddhist thing, which has to do with Buddhism in general, right? It has to do with the alleviation of suffering, discontent, ignorance, misdirected desires, delusions, all that kind of stuff, right? To produce a better outcome, to control cause and effect and things like that. Okay. The bamboo and all that, right? Now we're talking about Shinto and animism and those kind of things, right? This connection with nature. Okay. And that's at the top as well. So just below my normal banner, right, there's this twisted rope, okay, with these little, what look like tassels hanging down, and this zigzag lightning bolt looking pieces of paper. Okay. That is a Shinto device as well. And if you go to Japan, you may see that hanging from a shelf. There could be a rock on the shelf. There could be a little Butsudan or Shinden. Shinden is more of a Shinto thing. It's this building kind of thing, right? If you've been to or seen pictures of Hombu Dojo in Japan, if you've been to our dojo, right, on our Kamidana, right, the shelf where we bow in and bow out, right? There's a building right in the middle of it. Okay, so the Shinden represents this. It's the dwelling of the energy of whatever that place is. Okay, so in our dojo, right, it'd be the house or the home of the spirit of the dojo. Okay, now formally it's Marishi 10. It's just character Marishi that is supposed to be the guardian protector of warriors. But on a more mundane level, if we thought about the dojo collective, the training group, which is why Hatsumi Sensei has always made it very clear that there's a huge difference between a dojo and a martial arts school. Okay. Because in a dojo, everybody's part of a family. Everybody contributes. And based on the membership and the interactions and how people take care of each other or not, right, there's an extra entity that's created, right? It's just like in any group, right? There is the individuals, and then there's the collective mindset, the collective intention, that kind of thing, right? So it just symbolically represents that, that's where that extra individual or extra entity or whatever, right, kind of hangs out. So whenever you guys are bowing in or bowing out, you look at the Shinden. Again, there's a woo-woo kind of thing, right? There's these protector spirits, entities, whatever. In Hombu Dojo, there are multiple because they represent and there's a small, each one is a small shrine, a small Shinto focal point. And so Hatsumi Sensei has them up there, one for each continent that Bujinkan teachers are spreading the word, so to speak, right? To protect us, to keep us safe. That's where it's kind of the seed of the well wishes, so to speak, right? There's lots of other things up there too, okay? But underneath the shelf, right, there's this Shimenawa. Shimenawa, nawa is a rope. Shime means to wring, constrict, twist, so twisted rope or whatever. But this is a big thing that's done at New Year's, right? When you see ropes like this, they could be wrapped around a tree, they could be wrapped around a rock. Something special happened there. This is a revered place. This is a place that should be protected. This is a place that should be revered. There's significance here. This is symbolic of something we should be mindful of. Right? There's a lot more to it, but I didn't really hide it, but I put a bunch of this stuff on here so that so everybody got it. The reason I chose this picture this time, and I know you guys have seen that picture of me and my Jimbaori and whatnot, but the reason I did it this time around wasn't just to add the extra gold color to everything else I had going on there, but the Jimbaori is a warrior's vest, right? It was this ceremonial vest that was worn that still allowed for like drawing the sword and all that kind of stuff. So it points to why we're all here. At least I hope. Okay? So anyway, any questions on any of that before I move to this phrase, this Akimashite omedetou gozaimasu? I know there's a ne at the end. That's just the written exclamation point. But you still put an exclamation point. I know, I'm writing to Westerners. So let me get out of that. All right. James, any other questions or comments?
No questions. Trinity put in, though, as I understand it, one is best, but not in an intrinsic way. We use the word zui, meaning most, and apply it to the word how, meaning good. It means best, though there may be idioms I've not come across.
Okay, cool. All right. No worries. Thanks. Appreciate it. Okay, so akimashite omedetou gozaimasu. Okay, so if we break this down, I mean, again, there's an implication to it, and the way we would convert it, right? Happy New Year, that kind of thing. But let's start with the first word, akemashite. Okay, akemashite. The root of this is the word akeru. For those of you writing things down, A-K-E-R-U. Akeru. Akeru means to open or to dawn. Okay, so again, it's pointing more to that when one door closes, another opens. Dawn is the breaking of a new day, right? There's this cyclic kind of thing. It's this new thing, right? However, I also want to borrow something from this. While this is not literal, there was the word hajiru, right? You might have heard hajimemasu, hajimemashita, that kind of thing, right? When you first meet someone in Japan, right? A very common first, very polite greeting, right, is hajimemashite, dozo yoroshiku, right? Hajimemashite implies something. It's a beginning, right? This has begun, okay? Dozo yoroshiku means please treat me well, okay? So it's kind of both people, we might just say nice to meet you, but it goes deeper than that, right? So, but it is possible. I'm going to come back to this. While Akiru does not mean, it does not literally mean to begin. I mean, to think about it in this way, because this transition, it's almost like a cosmic do-over. Okay. So I'll come back to that in a minute. All right. So Akimashite, right? This has dawned. Okay. This has opened. Shite, deshita, akimashite, shite, is kind of a past tense thing. It has happened. Okay. Because this is being used from the day of past for about a week. Okay. Again, you can look up the other, just do a search, right? How many different ways they have to say Happy New Year in Japanese. But omedetou, anybody that's in the dojo, right? When they've received new rank or an award or anything, right? And I bow and hand it, right? I say omedetou gozaimasu. Okay. Gozaimasu itself is just a way to make something very, very polite, very, very formal. Okay. Omedetou means congratulations. It can also mean best wishes, those kind of things, right? So literally what we're looking at is a very polite, very formal way of saying congratulations or best wishes on this new dawning, on this new opening, right? As a greeting, well, just both as a greeting, right, and a celebratory wish for prosperity, for good fortune, for happiness, that kind of thing. So therefore, single quotes, Happy New Year kind of thing, right? But it also, as a sentiment, right, reflects gratitude for the previous year and all that I've been given, okay? Which may not all have been nice, by the way. Okay, we're going to dive deep into this because this is huge, right? But also optimism for the year ahead. Okay. So, but if we look at this from more of a literal kind of perspective, right? There's this dawning, right? But then you've got this word for congratulations. Okay. To me, and I've had discussions with Japanese friends and teachers, and while they had to think about it a little bit because just like we're conditioned to these just regular phrases, we don't think about breaking them down and whatnot, right? Like if you've ever grown up in an area where when somebody sneezes, somebody says Gesundheit, which is German. Okay. I didn't learn until I was stationed in Germany for a while that Gesundheit literally means good health. No, wait a minute. I just sneezed. Apparently, I am not of good health. However, there's this implied sentiment kind of thing, right? But people will just say it, right? Why do you say that? I don't know. It's German. I don't know. I think it means bless you. Yeah, no, it doesn't. Right? So, but if we think about this dawning again, right? You woke up this morning. You woke up New Year's Day. You've got a chance to fix things, do things, right? Make things happen. Okay. A lot of people can't say that. A lot of people can't say anything. But there's this congratulations, right? You've a door's open for you. Right? Here's this new day, this new year, this new opportunity, right? But the implication in that is not if I don't recognize it. Because if it's still same shit, different day, then not only am I not going to see anything different, I'm probably not going to try to do anything different or differently. And I'm just going to let my karma ride. Nothing's going to change. Okay. So Anyway, that's this thing, right? So akimashite omedetou gozaimasu. While again, if you look it up, it's just going to look like it's they just throw this stuff out, right? It's Happy New Year. It's the way the Japanese say Happy New Year. Yeah, but there's a lot more implication to it. Okay, and while just like with our kata, right? While a lot of kata are named, they're given a name that kind of distracts from what's really going on, right? Something could be named something. So if the scrolls were stolen and somebody reads it, it makes no sense, right? The hell do you mean Demon Crusher beats? My phone keeps firing back up. What the hell is going on? I think anybody else have Android? I think Bixby is nosing into my business. Anyway, so where the hell was I, James? Anyway, so we're not going to do anything different if we don't recognize this kind of thing, right? And we last episode we talked about Kaizen, right? This process, and there being a review stage. Well, traditionally, across multiple cultures, the transition to a new year is usually seen as a review stage. When Japanese people go to the temples or the shrines for New Year's, right? They're reflecting on the past year and setting their resolve or asking for favors depending on what they're doing, what they believe in, and where they're heading for the year to come. So we're just being more proactive about it as we do things because warriors are people of action. So we are people of decision and we are people of action. Okay? There's two things that like Japanese and Western teachers have taught me, and the Western teachers are directly connected to Hatsumi Sensei. Anyway, so has always been, we make decisions. What if you made a bad decision? Make another decision. It's not difficult, right? Just don't make a bad life decision. Well, how do I know it's going to be a bad life decision? Well, sometimes you have to give it time, and other times you know, right? And we take action. Okay? Warrior is not a noun. I know in the dictionary it's a noun, but a warrior is somebody that's always acting, somebody that's always doing. Okay? All right. So, any questions pop up on the Akimashite omedetou gozaimasu, James? Questions, comments, complaints?
No, sir.
No. Okay. So then let's. I already said I had a couple of things on there that represented the snake. So, 2025, as we go through these different elements, like I said, every year I do this. So this is the year of the wood snake. The snake itself is the sixth character on the cycle, right? There's a whole mythology. If you dive into the traditional Chinese, there's a whole story about how the first character and why the first animal is what it is, right? And then everything kind of comes about that way. And with rare exception, because I'm not going to commit to a complete kind of thing unless I were to review it again. With rare exception, the animals aren't just in some random order; they actually alternate. Right, the yin yo om yo do, as we would say in Japanese, the yin yang process is going on as we go through things. Again, I'm myself, I'm a tiger, right? So even though I was born in January of 1963, based on the lunar change, which is how this stuff works, which didn't change until the first week in February, I believe, that year. So that puts me at the tail end of 1962, which was a tiger year. It was a water tiger year. 1963 itself is the year of the rabbit. Okay. So what typically happens is you have a yang or positive or aggressive or more proactive kind of thing. And then that's followed by a passive, reflective, calmer kind of year. And it does that, right? So again, with rare exception, I can't think of one at the moment, but if it's there, I don't want to discount it. Okay. So don't take this as like Sensei said, it's exactly this way. Not always, just like the Gogyo 5 elements, right? Water, wood, fire, earth, metal, water. That's the order that they go in cyclically for transformation, for growth, for destruction. It goes in a different direction, but not backwards. So normally they rotate as well, but that's not always the case, because I have seen a couple of years in my studies where the same element carried over. So you had like 2 water years in a row or whatever. And I don't know how that works out. So again, it's a 60-year cycle, not a 12-year cycle, right? As these things all kind of mesh, right? So anyway, let's kind of dive into these, and I'll come at this a couple of different ways, right? So again, the snake is the 6th sign, and again, these characters, right? These animals don't always mesh up with the way we in the West think of them. Okay, sometimes some qualities will cross over, like with the snake and stealth and silence and things like that. Okay. But it doesn't have a negative connotation. There are aspects of it. I think the biggest one that jumps out is the dragon. Okay? In the West, the dragon is seen as this combative, fire-breathing, tread lightly, don't meddle into the affairs of dragons, for thou art crunchy and taste good with ketchup, if you've ever seen the bumper sticker. Okay. So, but that's the Western view of the dragon, big wings, those kind of things. The Eastern dragon is more serpentine, right? Almost like a snake, different type head and whatnot. And then depending on whether it has wings, which are very close to the head here or not, will tell you if it's a Chinese dragon or a Japanese dragon. And then there's the number of toes, all kinds of things like that, right? So, but the dragon represents more with longevity, grace, etiquette, being classy, that kind of thing, right? Being more spiritual, very, very different. Right? So you have to be careful when you're looking at these things that we don't just make assumptions, which I don't know about you, but there was a time in my life before I, stopped being lazy and did the research, made certain assumptions about things that, as my wise teachers might say, just ain't so. Okay. So anyway, so the snake symbolizes transformation. Okay. Strategy, intuition, right? Simpler way to say intuition. People can use words, but okay, this is like a gut level feeling, right? And wisdom. Okay. Wisdom, snakes. Right? Yeah. Well, I know that story about the Garden of Eden. Yeah, we had to be pretty freaking wise to know the nature of man to bait him into doing something that he should have known better about. Okay? Not all wise people are out for your benefit. Again, I've recommended the book Influence by Robert Cialdini many times. I highly recommend that. There are 7 triggers that we have that are hardwired because we're social creatures. And as a ninja, in the realm of the ninja uge, we could be using those. But we need to develop a very strong sense in the 8th gate of the Ninja Hachimon, Ninja no Kyomon knowledge, and not just superficial knowledge. Because without that, combating those 7 influences, these things are hardwired. Okay? They're being used against us all the time. They're being used in advertisements. They're being used in political rhetoric. Anybody trying to sell you something, okay? If it's easy to combat, they suck at it. Okay? If you find yourself leaning into it really well, picking sides, well, they're really good at it. Or parting with your money, they're really good at it. Okay? So, anyway, so be careful with the wisdom thing. Not everybody that's wise is also good. Okay? All right. So again, I'm going to bounce back and forth between these. All right. So that's the snake. The wood element, again, from the Gogyo, not the Godai. People mix and match these things all the freaking time. Okay. So the wood element symbolizes or emphasizes growth, flexibility, adaptability, and renewal. These are qualities that are deeply connected to what we were talking about last episode, the principles of continuous improvement, right? That Kaizen approach, right? Planning, refinement, those kind of things, right? Growth isn't just about learning more stuff. Okay? It's in refining what we know, getting better at it, and better at it, and better at it, right? That's why I've always said we don't stop training with a technique or a skill or anything, right? Once we learn it, once we get it right, we stop when we can't get it wrong. Because when we can't get it wrong, it's taken the place of the old habits, right? When we find it difficult to do the old way, right? The thing that we used to do, right? We find it, that's like, I never did it before. Why am I having problems with this? Okay? I did it half my life. That's because the whole system, muscle memory, brain synapses, everything has changed. Okay. But we have to be willing to work the process. Okay. Back to the snake, right? The snake's strategic nature, right, is that again, this is in the East, right? The snake is renowned for the ability to blend into the environment. That crosses over to both, right? To move silently and striking only when the moment is optimal, the moment is perfect. Okay. This is not typically the way sport martial arts or a lot of even like fighters. I don't care if they're boxers or the guy on the street or whatever, right? There tends to be this imperative need to win or at least a fear of losing, right? And these two things force people to move, to do something because like nothing's happening, or because they need to get this over very, very quickly, or they want it to happen now, or whatever, right? There's no setting up. And if there is a setting up, it's the same shit, different day. It's the same tactic done to a different attacker, but that different attacker is being treated just like every other opponent or attacker or whatever has ever been treated or whatever. So there's only like half thinking going on with it and whatnot, right? Ninjutsu is it shines with not letting him know what you're doing. Okay, somebody reaches out and grabs my shirt, and I just call it a receiving hand. Right, this thing comes up, and I don't care if I do it Gyoko style, where my thumb is between my chest or the material and their knuckles, or it's the heel of my hand, or I'm tucked up underneath in Tagagi-Yoshin style, or my index finger I'm tucked up under, but my index finger is like in their folded fingers kind of thing as a way to catch them, or my hand is floating around where the elbow is, whatever, right? This is that stealth. This is that silent movement. Okay, I'm moving in and I'm collecting information. This is like an insect's antenna. This is like a snake's tongue, right? It's how it senses the world. It smells, it tastes, it senses vibrations through, its body as it's moving. It's more tactily aware, right? So again, we wait for the moment, right? Because if we rush it, maybe we get it, maybe we don't. But either way, we just fucking told them what we're going to do or what we're all about. And now we can never try to do that same thing again unless we're fighting a moron. Huh? A lot of people train like that's who's going to be attacking them, either because they're so damn full of themselves that the other guy is obviously going to fall to my superior technique and wisdom, or they don't understand the nature of things. Okay? So, so again, this waiting, if you've ever seen I don't care if it's a constrictor snake, poisonous snake, whatever, coming in for that prey very slowly, right? Very, very, and then boom, then that when that strike happens, it is quick, it's clean, right? It's okay. And if it's a constrictor, they pull it in, right? And then they're sensing where it is because they can't see it, right? Part of it's in their mouth, body's wrapped around it and stuff. But what they're doing is they're kind of shifting because they're feeling where the body parts are and whatnot. So they can, because very rarely does a constrictor snake, right, catch and grab the prey for a kill on the first grab. It's opportunistic, right? They need to get it and get coiled around it, right, to immobilize it. But what they're doing is they're feeling where the parts are. And then it's going to relax a little bit and shift into position and then just squeeze so it can suffocate its dinner, bird, whatever, okay? In Gyokoryu, when we're discussing Hicho no Kata, this is a huge metaphor for that type of timing that's going on, right? Because there's that initial, right, kind of catch them kind of thing. But with Hicho no Kata, the emphasis is actually on the bird or the mouse or whatever, that when the snake makes that adjustment, right, there's an opportunity to get out of there. For the bird, it's a spreading of the wings and going. But either way, right? So there's this, we're looking for this opportune time, right? So there's a lot of strategic thinking. There's a lot of sensing and information gathering, right? Because a snake, right, picking up vibrations from the ground, they're watching for the movements, tongues coming out to kind of sense what's going on. Because when any animal, including us, right, when there's a fear response or whatever, right, endorphins and pheromones and things like that are released, it picks up on these things. Okay, so it's an indicator to us that that nothing is too small to be paying attention to, right? This in and of itself, right, mirrors the ninja's preference, right, for stealth, for patience, and precise action. Okay. This is not sloppy shit. This is not throw stuff at the wall and hope it lands. This is not like a sport fight where we're going to just throw a whole bunch of things and hope enough lands that, or something lands correctly, we get the knockout or whatever. Okay. Anyway, right. The snakes also symbolizes resilience and adaptability and things like that, right? Qualities essential for overcoming life's challenges. Okay. Everybody complains about challenges. I can't remember if it was Epictetus or if it was Seneca. Oh, these quotes are just stuck in my head. But one of them, and I'm going to paraphrase, otherwise I'll butcher the crap out of this thing. One of them is very famous for saying that challenges don't make the man. Challenges don't make the person. Challenges reveal the nature of that person. Right? If the person is somebody who's going to run, if they're going to fold, if they're going to bitch and complain but not take any action, whatever, right? So eventually, right, enough experiences, right, allow us to grow and evolve and those kind of things. But I think I've mentioned this in the past, but if you're new to this, or you haven't been around for very long with these episodes, this will be a reminder for everybody else, but new for you. I have always said that before I make any long-term decisions about a relationship, and I don't care if I told my wife when we were just seeing each other, she didn't understand it. I explained it, but I think she understands it now. I hope so. We're coming up on 17 years. But friendships, business relationships, long-term teacher-student relationships, on the teacher side and on the student side. I need to see a person, especially if we're working in a partnership format, right? If this is going to be more than platonic, this is going to be more than just an academic thing. I need to see a person in two different states. I need to see them afraid, and I need to see them scared. Afraid, and I need to see them angry. Okay, because those are the two conditions where somebody's facade, what they want you to see, drops, and the real them comes out. Okay, and if we're working in partnership here, and a challenge pops up, I'm not going to be closely associated with somebody who doesn't have my back as much as I have theirs. Okay? If they're going to fold, if they're going to run, they're going to throw me under the bus, if they're going to whatever. Okay. I get it. People freak out. They have a moment. They regain their composure. And then collectively, if I'm a part of a group or whatever, I mean, this is a big thing in the military as well, or law enforcement, security, those kind of things. This you have to know that everybody has your back. So it's a huge thing, right? I don't care how strong somebody is, if they're so individualistic that they're just going to run, they might run into the danger. That's fine. But if it's not strategic, if it's not something where we're going to collectively handle the situation, okay? I had a partner one time, I was a military cop, and we just knew, right? If something big broke out, and it did on more than enough occasions, that he would move in one direction, I would move in the other, but all of our actions and how we controlled the situation moved towards center where we would meet each other. Okay. Now there's always one eye on the other person, but it was like a sheepdog corralling the sheep, right? It was very strategic. If we did a traffic stop, right, it didn't matter if one was on the driver's side, and it didn't matter which one was where, right? We didn't have to look back to see if our partner was doing their job, right? We knew what was happening next, right? Because our lives depended on it, right? It's just that kind of relationship. Okay. So anyway, what did I just have on there? That was snake again. So wood, right? So the wood's growth and flexibility. So the wood element, again, symbolizes growth. It also symbolizes creativity and a deep connection to nature, all of which are central to Ninpo's emphasis on adapting to the environment and this is important, evolving through training, not just training to learn new shit. How is this changing me? How is this allowing me to produce better, faster, more results, more effectively, more efficiently? That's evolving, right? How is this helping me grow as a person, as a warrior, as someone that other people can depend on, right? Evolving, right? Not devolving, right? The more techniques I learn, the more ass kicking I can do. That's not true. But how are you going to use it? When are you going to use it? Those kind of things. Okay. The wood element also represents the cycles of regeneration and renewal, which tie into the philosophy of using life's challenges as opportunities for transformation. Okay? This comes up a lot in ninjutsu. That's why I say quite often that there's a lot of folks that are really invested in the Budo side of things, right? But when it comes to the Ninpo side of things, they I don't know, they either shy away from anything that has to do with philosophy or spiritual or life or growing as a person or whatever, or they have a real hard time with doing things that nobody else will know about. Right? They need everybody to know, I did that. That was me. Don't you ever forget it, because I won't let you. Right? So again, life's challenges, these are not things to be run away from. These are the things that allow us to develop greater skills. Right? And again, you're right. The snake's not like, this fixed kind of thing like we are. We got head, torso, and the limbs only work in certain directions or whatever. If you've ever seen a freaking snake, I don't care. Bring up a video on YouTube sometime of like snake wranglers, or the guys that are like in Florida and some of these places where they go out and snake got into somebody's house and whatnot, and they're gonna catch this thing. Right? That snake pretzel itself all over the place because there's few, if any, positions it can't put itself into. Now, it can't grow limbs, but you get the idea, right? Very, very adaptive, very hard to keep a hold of, right? So if we take a look at these together, right, we'll do this two ways. I'm going to need to bring up some other notes for this, but if we look at a combination of the snake and wood as these things are coming together for this year, even if it's just symbolically, right? So together, they create a very powerful, a very potent symbol of adaptation in the face of adversity, right? Strategic thinking and personal growth. Okay? These are qualities, again, that are central to the ninja's training and lifestyle. Right? Ninjutsu is not something that we do. Ninjutsu, it's like kamae. Right? Anyone who does kamae or only understands kamae in a static way is really thinking about stances, not kamae, dachi. Okay? Kamae are not something that we do. Now, in the beginning, yes, right? Because we're trying to figure out this position and whatnot. But if we understand that it's a scientific application of the body or the mind and spirit, intent, whatever, need to cover, remove targets, position itself, or whatever, right? If we understand that we as human beings are always in a kamae, I don't care if it's angry no kamae, bored no kamae, hands on hips, better not kamae, whatever, right? Because it's a natural, holistic thing, right? Intent, logic, right? Based on what I think is necessary, based on the conditions and the situation and the context, and then my body positions for that, right? There's stubborn no kamae, there's bored no kamae, right? I know everybody likes to wrap their heads around the Japanese names, but right, what most people focus on is the body's appearance, but the body's appearance is the body's reflection of what's going on in the head and the heart. Right? Somebody's sitting around. I know for those of you who are on audio only, you're not going to see this, but I've got my chin in my hand and I'm kind of looking toward the ceiling. And if I'm right, I mean, so I could look up, right, and I could just kind of pose this way. But what am I thinking? What am I feeling? Right? But if I add some sound to it, or add some other body things to it, and maybe those of you on audio only might pick this up, but if I go, where I go, interesting, or I go, wow, I remember when, see, the body's position with slight variation when I shifted my state looked almost identical. So if all we're focusing on is what the body looks like, then we're missing 2/3, right? 2/3, almost 70% of what makes a kamae not a stance. Right? And if we can understand that, then we can get closer to really understanding what the other lessons are conveying, and what this is, why I'm using words like transformation, evolve, those kind of things, right? Very, very different. Okay. So living the ninja lifestyle, that doesn't mean you need to live like a ninja in 16th century Japan. That'd be difficult, right? And it'd be kind of weird, right? You imagine walking around in hakama, going to work in straw sandals, right? Speaking Japanese to people. Oh, by the way, you have to speak Japanese in the dialect of 16th century, where? Hokkaido, Kyushu, Eastern, Western. Oh, see, not the same. Just like, right? Trin can do a whole class on Chinese. Now she specializes and is fluent in one, but like there's 5 different regions, right? And depending on where you are in those regions, things could be drastically different, or they could sound closer. Japan has the same kind of dialects, right? There's certain areas. I've talked to my Japanese friends from Tokyo. They've got friends in other places, and the way they described trying to, like, they'd go and stay with their friend for a month or whatever, and just trying to understand their friend and their friend's family speaking was like the first time I encountered somebody speaking English with a heavy Baroque Scottish accent. Like, is he even speaking the same language? Because he wasn't even using Celt. Or Gaelic. He was speaking English, but wow. Right. So anyway, these little nuances are important. All right. James, are you still on? I can't tell if he's on or not. Okay. Questions or comments up to this point before I make a slight shift here for this. Hopefully people are picking up on the hinting at certain aspects of training and the connection of wood and snake with ninjutsu. But like, if you've been on for a while and we've been covering Togakure, any of these aspects we've been looking at, I mean, this is like the year of the ninja, for God's sake, or for Buddha's sake, or for the ninja's sake, or Hatsumi Sensei's sake, or right. I don't want to step on somebody's toes and get them all triggered and butthurt, because warriors are all wussified. No, hopefully not, but anyway, nothing worse than being in a group that aspire to be ninja but are pissed off every time somebody says or does something, right? Wow. Anything?
Trinity threw in a piece about the snake. She said, recently in China, being called a snake in recent years can carry the Western connotation as well as the Eastern one. Instead of being called a snake or a shi, we are called Xiaolong, meaning little dragon. While different attributes are still applied to each zodiac, it's just a more socially acceptable way of declaring I'm a snake.
Yeah, I think you and I had that, not James, not you, Trinity and I had that conversation not too long ago, that the more culturally appropriate way now is like this little dragon. kind of thing, because you're still talking about this serpentine thing, and it comes across in a better way, because again, it's like when we talk about certain words that, when they were first used, okay? For instance, right, in our culture, there's this huge woke word, right? And I don't know if somebody, if people think that they're using it as a replacement for the to be awake, as in enlightened and that kind of thing, from Buddhism or the study of the Dharma or anything, it doesn't really matter to me. One of the places that it originally started was in the Black community, and it had to do with people who were socially aware of injustice and forms of injustices. Great. Okay. But words migrate. And when words migrate, meanings change. So I have to be careful, right? Like singing the Christmas song where everybody's all happy and gay, right? Meant something very different when that song was written as it could be translated as today, right? So, there's these little nuances to things. Okay. It's like, again, reading the scrolls or reading the Bansen Shukai, and we're going to make this little potion, and we're going to use a horse's breath, and we're going to, wait, what? Right. Or let's say I was going to do something. I'm going to put something on the on my butsudan, or my butsudan near my office, and somebody's going to the flower shop and stuff, and then I say, I want a sprig of baby's breath, right? Well, horse's breath was the same kind of thing in ancient Japan. If you don't know what the damn plant was, you might think it was this ethereal exhalation from this horse, just like, what the hell's a sprig of an exhale from a baby's mouth, right? No, it's a right. So again, translating a lot of this stuff, there's way too many people guessing. Okay. And I guess they could figure it out at some point, but might be easier if we just, figured it out. Right. So anyway, was that it? It was just hers?
That was it. And Asim Francis checked in, said good evening.
Awesome. Another brother from a different mother. At least that's my story. All right, let me shift back over here. Where am I going? You don't need it. I need it. You'll see me. I just need to bring up another set of notes. There we go. Okay, so I've been playing around for the last 3 episodes with kind of this year-end message, right? That where I've been inviting everyone to kind of do this little review and see where you are, right? In episode 1, what do you need to jettison? Episode 2, I don't mean this in a bad way when I say stop aiming so damn high. What I mean is, because I'll set goals that are like way out there, but at the same time, I create a ladder between the endpoint and me with stages, and each of these in and of itself is a goal, and I try to put them in the order that they belong so that I can get where I'm going as quickly as possible. But at the same time, I also leave space for the unexpected, like life throwing an extra rung in the ladder, right? That I'm going to have to deal with. So I don't not think about those as well. And this all comes out of this Goma goal setting, active meditation. But sometimes, either because of self-doubt or misunderstanding or lack of practice, or hell, lack of resources. When I started out, I had plenty of time. I had little to no money. Okay. And I had a family, which means when I say I had little to no money, I kept food on the table, but there wasn't much for anything else. So I had to be creative. And again, here's the old guy speaking. I didn't have YouTube to fall back on. Right. I could squirrel some extra money away, grab a magazine here, and I would have to leaf through, right? Because I was only looking for certain instructors. Okay. It was very, very clear. Just because something had the freaking title of ninja on it didn't mean that it was good. Remember that discussion I had earlier? Just because somebody's wise doesn't make them a good person, right? That just means that they know how to use what they know in many different situations to get the result they want. Be careful, right? So do the best you can with what you have, as long as you're moving forward, right? So I need like there's an end point, right? For instance, when somebody gets involved with us, right, often they're getting involved through KUDEN, right? It's free. Show up Monday nights or binge listen to the recordings or watch them if you're on YouTube. Whiteboard Wednesdays, those kind of things, right? James knows this. I mean, most of our best students these days, right, have come through these avenues. But we offer things at different levels, right? So yeah, there's some free things, but they're these big 30,000 foot view kind of things, right? To give you this big outline, or it solves a single problem, right? Even if it's just, I know I'm more clear about this thing, this process, this level of training if I were training with you, i.e. like if there's a place on the website to get the module 1 workbook, right? Student workbook, right? There's a place that you can buy all the workbooks, right? But there's a place where you can just start off with that one. There are these lower end kind of things, right? A couple of bucks here or there. There are some upper level kind of things. But ultimately, the flagship program, if you're in my dojo and you're an adult, the flagship program is our Shinobi Kai program, our traditional ninja training program. When I say traditional, I don't mean we're doing things like we were in 16th century Japan. We might, but it's always in context. What I mean is these are students who want to learn the way I learned when all the gloves were off and there was no soft training. Okay? Online, it's the coaching program. Okay? That's where everything should be pointing to anybody who wants to get fully involved. And then from there, they can enhance what they're doing by coming to Daikomyo Sai, spring camp, fall camp, jumping on a Japan trip or something like that, right? To really ramp things up, right? Now, I'm using this as a model, not so you understand how the dojo or the online training works or whatever, but to understand that if we don't have this thing that we're aiming for, then what the hell? Because if I know what that is, right? Well, I just like to train. Well, then it doesn't matter what the hell you do. You can do whatever you want, right? What abilities? Who will I be able to help? Right? What's my baseline? Right? What am I aiming for? As Zig Ziglar said, and I remind people of this all the time. Zig Ziglar, this motivational and sales coach and business guy or whatever, has always, well, he's dead now, but he always said, if you aim at nothing, you'll hit it every time. Because it doesn't matter what you're doing, right? So when it comes to having a goal, if I know what that is, then the 2 episodes ago, right, of determining what I need to let go of because it can't get me there or it's actually holding me back. Like no matter how much intent, how much money, how much enthusiasm or whatever I throw at things, these habits, these conditions, these decisions, whatever, I can't get there from here. Right? I've got to jettison shit. Right? The hot air balloon is not taking off until I drop the anvil. Okay? Which is not going to happen. Okay? So then, okay, good. Now I'm getting rid of some stuff, right? Because there's lots of things. Everybody goes looking for the answers. What should I do? Right? What does it mean to be a ninja? What does it mean to be this? What is it, what are the 7 characteristics of a samurai? Okay. Well, that's okay. Great. Right. But what like when I look at those things and I go, okay, 1, 7, yeah, I'm solid on those. The other ones, one, ooh, I really like to or need to work on that, but every time I go to do it, I just can't bring myself to doing it because it's going to piss somebody off. Or this is 2024, 2025. Oh, you can't say that kind of thing to people. Really? No, you can't say that kind of thing to certain types of people. How will you vet the people you choose to associate with to determine whether they are conducive to the lifestyle and the kind of person and the kind of life you want to have if you don't challenge them by being authentic or by being the you that you need to be to live that life in the future? Doesn't mean being a dick for the sake of being a dick. It means not walking on eggshells. Right? Now, if I'm truly trying to help somebody and they, not really ready for like full on truth, or they're not, even in Mikyo, right? It's all about like ultimate universal truth. But part of that is understanding that some people are not ready for ultimate truth. That's true for a lot of us as well. That's a good ninja idea too. Right? And so I'll give it in small batches, or I might tell them something that I know is, I'm not going to use the word lie, but it's well beyond softening. It plays into their belief so that they'll move forward. And then at a certain point, I can take that training wheel off too. Yeah, but you said, I know that was then, this is now. That's a man. Is that a comment that I've heard from teachers again and again and again, to the point I just stopped saying, yeah, but you said, okay? Because that was for the white belt, or that was for the green belt, or okay. Right. But I'm also not trying to force feed, right? Sensei's he's a Daishihan, so you teach me everything you know. You're not ready for everything I know. Okay? That's all these things are based on certain levels of understanding, perspective, dropping of bad habits, all kinds of things. So, um, teach me Japanese. I'll just start speaking Japanese to you. Well, I understand that. Okay, how about if we start with a sentence at a time? How about if we start with a word at a time? Okay? So anyway, we need to have some context. I've been giving these things along the way, and I've been hinting at the wood snake, and I've continued to mention, right, how connected this is to the especially the Togakure-Ninja stuff, right? So let's take a look at some ways that this relates. Okay, this wood snake relates to the end of year message or messages that we've been discussing over these, at least the last 3 episodes, if not more. Okay. So, number 1, transformation through action. Right? So the snake reminds us that to survive and thrive, we must continually adapt and grow. Right? This speaks to the necessity of stepping out of comfort zones and facing challenges head on. Right? So, again, I've got these little messages in here. Take them in the spirit they're being given, which is me really wanting you to make headway, to get where you want to be going. Okay? If any of these trigger you in a negative direction, please find a mirror, because this is not about me. It's about the receiver. You know how to spell receiver? Y-O-U? Okay, cool. Awesome. On the same sheet of music. Okay. So the message I want you to get here, or the idea that I want you to get here, is if you want to truly embody the spirit of the ninja, you must commit to personal transformation. Okay? Start where you are. You can't start anywhere else. Okay? Stop bitching and complaining about not having this other thing that would make things easier, nicer, faster, whatever. Start where you are, but start now. Okay. So just hold this thought for a minute. And if I get through all this and it's not an overt thing, I'll come back to it. But I want you to think about something that is a part of the characteristic of a snake, and that is molting, not melting, molting. Right? Right. So that's transformation through action. Number 2, growth is a choice. Now, the kind of growth that we're talking about is a choice. Okay? Can you imagine where we would be? Think about people that you know that don't believe that they have the ability to do anything, can't get it anywhere, life's out to get them, they can't grow, they can't change, they're stuck with what they have or whatever. Isn't it really nice that nature already programmed their body to grow from infancy, from newborn to infancy to toddler to young child to older to teen to adult, without them having to do it on purpose? It's pretty fucking lucky, don't you think? Because if their belief system about what they're capable of affected nature and their body's ability to grow, would they be out of diapers yet? Right? So in this case, we're talking about the wood element, right? And this element highlights the potential for growth and progress. Growth doesn't happen passively. It requires deliberate effort and engagement. If anybody went through the things that I did as a teenager, you recognize this phrase or this term, growing pains. Right? I think, 14. During the summer of my 14th year. Not kidding. I mean, I did a little spin on things there, sound more Shakespearean. But I did not come from a wealthy family. As a matter of fact, my stepdad, in addition to being an abuser, and the sad side is he wasn't a drinker. He didn't do drugs, nothing like that. Right? He just was just a freaking man child. He was a kid in a man's body, and so whenever he got his paycheck, just fucking spent it on whatever he wanted to. Yeah, he bought groceries and all that kind of stuff, but like all his stuff that was in a special part of the pantry, right, all had the brand name stuff on it, and we all had the generic stuff. And back in the day, you didn't have colorful boxes with cool brand names for off-brand stuff. Anybody that knows what I'm talking about, late 60s into the 70s, generic stuff all came in white boxes with black printing on it. That was the rest of the families. Okay. So, and then bills didn't get paid. He lied. He fucking made false police reports, all kinds of bullshit. Right. So, this is, we need to understand. Anyway, so to this story with my stepdad, to get by, so that we had clothes to wear to school and all that. Never got fashion clothes. Never got the clothes that were in style. Nothing like that. What he would do was he would buy our school clothes one size larger, assuming growth during the 3 months we were off for summer break. So he bought the clothes at the end of the school year before the prices went up for school shopping. Not a bad idea now that I'm a dad. Well, granddad, right? But during the summer of my 14th year, I fucking grew 3 clothing sizes. Boy, was he pissed off. Whew. Couldn't beat me for that one. But anyway, so he ended up bought those clothes. Then next thing you know, they didn't fit. Bought another set of clothes. Then a couple of days before school, when we're trying our clothes on and all that kind of stuff, then it fit. That was the only year that I got clothes that were in style. Because when we went to the store and I said, I don't give a shit, just pick something. So I, looking back on them, I'm like, what the hell did I see in those? But anyway, it was the style. So that summer, I was in a lot of pain because my body was growing faster than, like, certain parts were growing and other parts were trying to catch up, and joints hurt, muscles hurt, all kinds of things. It was one day I'm like, getting up or messing around with my brother or whatever, and our bunk bed kind of set up. The next day I'm whacking my head off a freaking thing that I could clear easily, every other day. So, but this growing pains are natural. Okay. We don't grow without effort. We don't grow without challenges. Okay. If we're training and we're working on the same stuff the same way, and we're just feeling good because it's working, if we're not making mistakes, if we're not pushing against or outside of our comfort zones, we're not growing. We're not growing. The seed to turn into a plant has to fight against everything, the soil, the rocks, everything in the way, everything from pushing the roots down to the stem going up. And if there's anything in the way, it has to work its way through it or around it or over it or whatever. It's just the way nature works. Okay. So it's not just about the potential for growth and progress. Everybody pumps out the memes for this stuff, right? Right. I know it's challenging, but keep going. Everything will get better. Okay. Not if you keep doing the same shit the same way. The skill set either has to be upgraded or we need a different skill set because the problem requires a different skill set. Okay. And for anybody that, I swear to God, pops up with another, this is a fucking old idea, this is not the way shit works. Okay? It works for people who work it. For those people who say this thing, I'm talking to you, not everybody else. If it's not working for you, it's because you're not working it correctly. Period. End of story. It's old because it still fucking works. Okay? Our martial systems are proof positive of this stuff. The stuff that we are learning today has survived again and again and again on a battlefield, in back alleys, in sword duels. Anything that did not work consistently, we don't know about it because it died with the motherfuckers who tried it. We need to think about that. This is not shit that was just made up by somebody who needed to be a grandmaster. The stuff we're learning has worked again and again and again during the worst of times. These are not just good ideas. Although when Shrey Sensei says, good ninja idea, I think so. Okay? It is a proven good idea, not a, well, why can't we do it like this? By all means, have at it. Okay? So, the thought for the year, day, month, whatever you want to use this for. Okay? A ninja is not made through wishing or through fandom. Okay? A ninja, just like a sword, okay? A ninja is forged through action, persistence, and the willingness to overcome self-imposed limitations. The question isn't whether or not something can be done. The question is, how can I get it done? Number 3, wisdom and strategy over brute force. Anybody's been around for a while knows this. Okay. So the snake's wisdom and strategic nature align with the ninja's preference for subtlety and intelligence over raw strength. This is one of the things that sets Budo, Bujutsu, apart from Ninpo and Ninjutsu. Not that Ninjutsu does not have Bujutsu in it or isn't an elevated aspect of Bujutsu, but one fosters and allows for brute force and nose-to-nose, toe-to-toe engagement. The other one, what is the easiest, most energy-efficient way to get this done with the least amount of wear and tear on me in the process? This sets Ninpo apart from other martial arts, from other fight systems, and attracts individuals seeking a higher path of warriorship. This doesn't mean that, folks can't continue to learn from KUDEN and from the stuff that we're covering and whatnot, but this is really for people who are looking for, right, not just a better way. I was just, as I was ending tonight's class at the dojo, the topic kind of came up about this similarity and things like that, right? And how a lot of people, when they go looking for fight systems or they go looking for martial arts or whatever, they tend to lean into looking for things that match their personality, right? They match their belief system about the way that fights happen and the way that you're supposed to fight. Everybody knows this is the way you do it, right? So they're not really looking for that big of an advantage. If they were to put this into words, which they never would because it would sound ludicrous, right? What they want is to fight like everybody else, but better. Well, what the hell does that mean? Right? I don't want to fight like everybody else. If I fight like everybody else, he already knows what I'm going to do because he does it or he's seen it. Right? I want him to have to freaking make up his responses on the fly in real time, not knowing what's coming next. Right? If I fight like everybody else, 1, he probably fights that way too. 2, he's already seen it. And 3, he has defenses against it. That's not the ninja way. Okay. So, thought for the year, day, month, whatever. Okay. The ninja's path is one of intelligent action, deep reflection, and mastery over oneself, both body and mind. And for those of you who like to say body, mind, and spirit, I understand. But in the East, mind or heart, kokoro, is mind and spirit together. It's really difficult to separate them. Okay, so it's time to choose. This is a year of strategic thinking, meeting challenges, not avoiding them, right? Because it allows us to develop new and more refined, more evolved skill sets, right? So will we step on the path or remain on the sidelines? Okay. So anyway, let me get rid of that little screen. Ta-da! Hey, look. I can see me. You see me the whole time. Anyway, James, questions, comments, complaints. Sensei's a douchebag. Whatever. I've got broad shoulders.
The only comment, or actually, no, there's 2. Trinity also said about the words changing definitions over time. Says similarly, JJ in Chinese used to mean older sister. Now it means the equivalent of "Hey, little mama," like a cat call.
Probably good to know. Probably good to know. Have some big brother come around the corner and beat you into the freaking ground. No, wait, no, that's not what you were saying. Yeah.
And the other one is Awesome said everything works on context.
Okay. Don't forget the context. I had somebody comment on one of my videos a couple of days ago. What they said was great information, but this doesn't work for everyone. My response was, you're absolutely right. Nothing works for everyone. Nothing works all the time. The trick is, one, how much are you assessing before you try to apply something? Two, do you recognize that this may not work, right? It's based on my best understanding and application and whatnot, right? But things change, beginning, middle, end, okay? And two, how adaptable are you that once you start moving forward and something pops up that you didn't account for? Like I was in a relationship with somebody for quite a while, and every time, like they would spend a lot of time like planning something out. And as soon as the first obstacle popped up, they would have a meltdown. This is never going to happen. I got to go back and start all over again. I'm like, no, we can just go around or over. That's not part of the plan. But there's a lot of shit that you don't know about. No matter how much you want to try to think everything through, there's a lot of stuff you don't know about. And anybody here familiar with Murphy's Law of Combat? That's the one that says, like, you know, your weapon was made by the lowest bidder. And if the enemy's in range, so are you. Those kind of things, right? Okay. James, you know about Murphy's Law of Combat, right? Yeah. Okay. There's multiple points in this thing, but one of them is all plans fail with first contact. Okay. You do the best you can, but as soon as you start applying action, you start realizing things that you didn't account for and couldn't because you didn't get feedback from their body. Same thing with working with an uke, right? You know your technique, like inside out, whatever. And based on the way this guy throws punches and those kind of things, oh man, I know how to catch this one and whatnot. And then you run into either a wet noodle because he's like that limber, or the opposite, right? You run into a freaking, a freight train that you can't move it, right? You got to, right? I'm moving in based on what I know, but once I make contact, that's going to give me information I didn't have up to this point. Okay. Unfortunately, Western academia has led us to the point where, right, memorize the formula, apply the formula. The problem always works out. You get graded for the number of successfully solved problems. But even with, you've got, as you're assessing, you have the context of environment and you and him, and maybe some emotion and the way he's posturing and those kind of things, your experience and your emotional state and what you're wearing, what he's wearing. That makes up a lot of it, right? But that context can change quite a bit when you make first contact, right? You do uke-uch, slam that arm and go to punch him, and he's already reeling back and falling on the ground, freaking crying, or like, don't hit me, I was just joking. Don't act. So don't act. I know you're pretty proud of your acting abilities, but that almost got you killed, right? Or, you got this freaking move, and you pop him right in the Shikan Ken, right to the Matsukaze, or the windpipe and whatnot. And this guy just shakes it off, and everything context changes. Okay. So there's the universal constant, which is called change. Subject to change are all things. Okay. Now, there are some weaknesses for the year of the snake as well. Okay. We can try to outthink everything and account for every contingency or whatever, right? And then we end up being slow to start, or we never get started because we're waiting for the perfect time, the best time. Remember that? Getting into position, waiting for the best time to start. There's no best time to start. There's all you have is what you think. But remember, the snake started the strike to catch lunch before he was poised for the strike. He had to detect heat signature and whatnot that there's potential lunch. And then he had to determine, can I move straight in? Do I need to, right? Okay. And then where do I go from here? Then where do I go from here? So there is a best time for the strike once we're in position for it. But like Scotty's not going to beam you down from the Enterprise already set and ready to go, or beam the bad guy down already in that position. So best time to start. Well, what the hell does that mean? Right? So I have to be careful. Right? We also need to be careful that we're not so caught up in the growth or the transformation or the making ourselves adaptable or whatever, where, you know, all the soft woo-woo kind of stuff, that we're not doing any of the hard step-by-step, get it done kind of things. Okay? Run into a challenge. Well, I let him yell and scream at me, whatever. Okay. Okay. So yeah. Okay. I'm getting better at, like, you know, not responding to that kind of thing. Okay, great. Great. Did that have anything to do with the goal that you're aiming for? Because if the goal that we're aiming for had to do with stopping it because it's a distraction and it just wasted a half hour of my goddamn life, and I'm supposed to be over there and I have limited time today to get it done, great. Okay. You let him rant rave for half an hour. You stood there and you took it. Congratulations. But on the goal sheet, it says not being distracted so much. Okay. So we have to be careful that we're not letting the woo-woo override the boots on the ground, get shit done stuff either. Okay. We spiritual warriors can get caught up in that stuff. Okay. So, and the other thing that can get in the way is the softness and adaptability and suppleness, right, of the wood thing and the snake, but the wood characteristic, where we're adapting to everyone else. They're pulling the strings, their sensitivities, their needs, their anger triggers, whatever. And so we become very adaptable so that we can fit into whatever conditions we're presented with. But it has nothing to do with moving forward to get where we need to go. That's like planting a seed and the conditions are right and it starts to germinate, and then we put not just a rock, but a plate on top of the whole freaking flower pot. So now no matter how much that plant tries to find the edge so it can work around the obstacle, it'll die trying to adapt to something that's absolutely smothering it. There's no way to work around it because it won't break through as far as nature goes. But for us, we can't break through because we won't break through because we're so busy adapting to everything else. Okay. So anyway, just a cautionary tale, right? But it's a new day. It's a new dawn, right? No matter what went on last year, those challenges, those kind of things, right? They gave you experiences, right? They gave you things that I'm not going to let that shit happen again. Or when that happens, I'm going to, great. Okay. What skills do I need? What do I need to say? What do I need to be willing to say? Who do I need to be willing to piss off? right? In the US, typically when we say piss off or pissed off, we mean to get angry or to make somebody angry. I'm borrowing from my British friends that when they say piss off, they mean get the fuck out of my way, go away. Okay. Same words, just like that kamae dachi kind of thing, right? But you don't understand, sensei. Like, I got to live with him. I got to see him every day at work. No, you do not. And even if you choose to, they do as well. Somebody's going to change the conditions, or somebody's going to adapt to the conditions. And the rest will be history. Do you understand what I just said? Somebody will change the conditions, or somebody will adapt to the conditions. Are we going to change it? Because we're focusing on change. And I understand adaptability, but this is like the tension or the strength, tension, relaxation paradigm in taijutsu. Most people are still carrying this relaxation shit way too far. Because when they first started, everything was about relaxing, soft energy, soft training. Of course it is, because most people who get involved in training early on think about too much, or because of nervous anxiety, there's too much tension. So we focus on relaxation. But there's a point where if you're going to be hitting them hard, there better be some tension at that moment of impact. And then we go right back to relaxation. Okay. Relax. There's tension. And then we're right back to relaxation so we can hit and grab. Right. So we can condition ourselves to be able to just flip switches and just without having to do it intellectually, without having to do it with left brain. Okay. All right. What else, James?
A sim has follow-up to the context. It's the same when everyone watches a short clip online, then everyone criticizes the efficacy of what is being shown. They don't know everything that is going on in the context of the clip. For example, Soke demonstrates a technique and it changes with each iteration of attacks. No one attacks the same way every time, or he deliberately demonstrates something else in his response to the attack. The context had changed.
And nobody watching the video can feel what Sensei can feel at the moment he's touching his partner. And I don't just mean with his skin. You can feel and sense and touch from a distance. I know you know this because if you've ever gone in the house after coming home from work and somebody was pissed off, you can feel it. The air is thick. Right? Yeah. So absolutely. Just like people who comment on videos, oh, you did that to me, I'd kick your ass. Well, if you already knew the technique before I did it, I wouldn't be doing that to you. So thanks for telling me how you'd beat it after you saw it. And you saw it from a distance, not eye to eye. James, have you ever worked with me or anybody else, seen a demo of a technique, and then been inside the technique and it looked completely different?
Mm-hmm.
Of course it does. Every fucking technique. It doesn't look the same, right? You're out there looking at it, right? And then you get with your partner and you're going to be the uke and you go to throw this thing. But you just saw it profiled. Now you get in there and, well, Sensei, he's doing this thing and he's supposed to come in and get me, but I can kick him in the groin. Well, then he's in the wrong place. Because if you can see his targets and you can reach his targets, he's in suckish mode. Now, in the upper levels, you should be able to see his targets, but you can't access his targets. And when you go after that too good to be true thing, you run into shit that you didn't realize was there. He has wet fingers or whatever. Okay. That's our 3rd to 4th degree stuff. In Bujinkan ranking, 10th out of the above. Actually closer to 15th, but anyway. So, what else? Is that it?
The only other thing, two things, I guess. Awesome said facts, and there's a question from Baki. It's off topic for tonight. He just asked what your opinion of Tai Chi is.
Tai Chi, when done properly and taken its full course. See, most people think of Tai Chi as old man's slow motion kind of stuff. Okay? Tai Chi was one of the most deadliest martial arts ever invented. Okay? It was taught by monks to monks. But you have to remember also that if you were a monk, you were in a monastery. If you're in a monastery, you were there for a predetermined amount of time. So the 4-year learning curve, typically for a lot of styles of Tai Chi, is still within the window of leaving the monastery and having to go out into the world. Right? Don't confuse what it looks like, the way it's being used, with what really went on. Right? So what do I think of it? I think it has, just like every martial art, has its validity. If it didn't, it wouldn't still be alive today. What I think about most martial arts is it's not about the system itself. It's about the teachers and the students teaching it and learning it and actually applying it. Here's what I think about all martial arts. Most people talk about it and think about it outside the dojo, but they don't use it outside the dojo. And I don't mean just for fighting. Because most people compartmentalize their lives. They don't live a holistic existence or a holistic lifestyle where all the pieces feed everything else. I think that they have so it's like in Japan, they have a work life, they have a hobby life, they have a home life. And it's more about accidental living than intentional living. What I mean by that is they act a certain way in each of these things. They think a certain way. They believe that they have a certain amount of control, that kind of thing, but they don't stop to think about intentionally bringing certain aspects to bear so that they can excel in each of those things. I mean, I think it's perfectly okay for somebody to have a work life and you play a certain role and you do a certain thing, right? But are you being the best that thing that you can be, or are you at work wishing you were fishing or whatever your hobby life is, or at home laying on the couch eating cheese curls and binge watching Netflix, or when you're at home and you've got home master duties? Are you wishing you were at work or at hobby things or whatever? Or are you trying to excel as somebody who is the king or queen or whatever of your domain, right? Controlling and applying these lessons to control those things. And I don't mean like heavy-handed control. I mean to stay on top of things, to be evolving as a dad, grandpa, husband, that kind of thing, to excel as a teacher or manager or whatever. What are you aiming for in each of these things? When we go, when I used to fish, right? Yes, it was relaxing, but sometimes when I was in hobby mode, I wasn't actually at a body of water with my tackle. I was in a fishing book learning about reading the waterway and where certain types of fish would be at certain times of day, what the natural, not bait, what the natural food was for, let's say, smallmouth bass in this one tributary in East Central Pennsylvania, which are hellgrammites, right? So that when I went fishing, if I went fishing to relax and didn't give a shit if I caught anything, didn't matter if I went fishing, I could just do something else to relax and whatever, right? But if I went fishing to catch fish, so there's this aspect of, right? If I'm going to work and I've chosen this job to work at, well, I didn't have any choice. Now, bullshit. We all have choices. Okay. And the only people who don't have choices are dead. Right. So I have chosen this job, at least for now. Yeah, I know, but until something better comes along. Well, how about if I stop fucking betting on fate? And how about if I'm doing this job, but during my downtime or my lunch break or whatever, it's even easier now because we have phones and or tablets or devices or whatever, right? How many applications did I put in today, this past week, last month, whatever, right? Am I looking for jobs that I did an episode, James, was it in 2024 where I did the lesson on exclusions, the lesson that poor kids don't get that rich kids do? That you want to live a certain lifestyle, you want to have certain amenities, you want to have certain opportunities and whatnot. Then when you're looking for a job, when you're looking for a mate, when you're looking for friends, when you're looking for whatever, right? The first thing you do is you exclude all things that cannot produce that. You don't take a job just because, well, you got to have a job. Well, okay. Well, if you chose a job just because you need a job, and I need a job just so I can make enough money to pay the bills and have a little bit left over, well, then what happens when the car breaks down? What happens when the refrigerator goes out? What happens when right? Okay. So what kind of lifestyle do I want to live? And then, right, the difference, each side hates the other, right? Okay, fine, right? But it'd be a better idea if we understood, right? What does Hatsumi Sensei mean when he says you have a duty to be rich? You have a responsibility to be rich. Well, that ruffles feathers, doesn't it? Ooh, okay. Because if you're going to produce results in the world and you're going to get things done as easily, as quickly, as effectively and efficiently as possible with the least amount of wear and tear on yourself as possible, then you need to have the right tools in the right toolbox. And sometimes it ain't a hammer and duct tape. And most times it's not an onikudaki, no matter how fucking good you are with onikudaki or ichimo's no kata or whatever. I do Bujinkan. Bujinkan better be happy and better have said yes. Otherwise, you're going to go to jail for... Sorry, that was a joke. Who's doing Bujinkan tonight? Who would name a woman Bujinkan? Anyways. I know. Dick move. Anyway. All right. So this is and again, I'm not saying that you have to believe in this stuff or whatever. I don't buy that there's... Sorry, I just don't. I don't buy that there are these things out there. But there is this framework and there is this thing that allows me to focus. If you listen from the very beginning of this thing, how many times did I say the word adaptability? How many times did I say the word or the phrase or the term strategic thinking or transformation, evolving, that kind of, right? So this just hones into a particular set of things. If you just focused on the three big ones, right? The growth, focusing on your growth, actually growing, being better tomorrow. It could be next week, could be next month, right? Your health is better, your position at work or in the relationship is better, the amount of money in your pocket is better, all those kind of things, right? Just if you could focus on growth, you could focus on adaptability, and you could focus on strategic thinking, right? Strategic processes, not just habitual process, which is what everybody else does. Well, what fucking condition are they in? Because if we're doing the same thing that our friends are doing, then we're living the same lives that our friends are living. If we want something different than that, we can't keep doing the same shit. So if we focused on those, you would be better off than 95% of the fucking population of the planet. And you'd have more control of your life than 95% of the people. And you'd be using more of this art than well over 95%. That's all I have to say about that. So let's round this out, shall we? I have my new drink. Okay. So my scotch. Whatever you have, it's okay. I don't know. Pull some spit in your mouth. I don't care what it is. Okay. So there's a Japanese phrase. People generally term it to mean like cheers or toast or salute or whatever, right? The word is kampai. Kampai, right? Kampai, right? You'll see people drinking and whatnot. Okay. Sometimes they clean glasses, sometimes they don't. But it's just this traditional kind of thing. So with that, right, with glasses raised, right, I hope that you will join me as we continue moving into this year and focusing on being better tomorrow than we were today. But learning from today that which is necessary to make tomorrow as powerful as we can make it. Kampai. And with that, my friends, any last minute questions or comments there, James?
Last one from Asim is living intentionally. And he said kampai as well.
Kampai. All right. That's it, folks. I will see you next time on KUDEN. Get more of KUDEN Radio. Subscribe through your favorite podcasting site or join our clan of serious modern warriors at online